What is the $5,000 NASA Eclipse challenge? Just call it yet another piece of smoking gun evidence that flat earthers can hang their hats on. Because everyone knows flat earthers always hang their hats on smoking guns. Or call this one of those daunting, disparaging, hidden in plain sight declarations that secret societies enjoy using to ridicule the unsuspecting masses. Or call it a miracle inspired by divine intervention, or refined inspiration from divinity as a source point, or just call it like it is and simply state NASA has provided absolute confirmation and uncontested categorical proof that a flat Earth model is consistently used for the prediction and calculation of all past, present, and future eclipse events. Finally, something slightly more tangible pitting the cartoon world where globe models exist appallingly in prominence against the real world we can actually see with our own eyes, where the plainer truth lies right in front of us as these paradoxical facts come crashing down and collide with reality in biblical proportions, so to speak. The gravity of it all is approximately as daunting as the scientific theory of the same verbalization, gravity, that is. Furthermore, NASA data provided for every single sun and moon positioning during an actual eclipse, fundamental for modeling and calculating every solar and lunar ecliptic event, past, present, and future, totally and categorically prove that the same data is not applicable and cannot be applied to a globe Earth model. Nothing even close to a sphere can support the numerical data NASA nonchalantly uses to describe eclipses, and nobody has ever thought to check.
Until now.
And in their totality, Sun, Moon, and Earth data provided by NASA, meaning the overall direction, orientation, and estimated distances, can only work on a flat Earth model precisely like a man made gaming type used with CGI imagery that purely mocks the mathematical guise some people like to use as their primary defense mechanism of so called reality. The man made reality stuff that the dynamic model taught in every classroom worldwide, apparently for the last 500 years or so, the model that miraculously justifies our theoretical universe, which all hinges on the assumed 1,000 mile per hour spinning globe near the equator, flying through space at 65,000 miles per hour Earth, in an expanding clusterfuck of galaxies spreading all celestial matter outwardly in constant perpetual motion. Blah, 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 none of which has ever been scientifically proven or even remotely demonstrated in any true fashion. Scientific history is a tale of religion, where an idea of random, godless universe is the fundamental doctrine, worshipping a spinning sphere to justify the Principian Creed, and indeed shun any non believers as heretics and, yes, morons. But in actuality, the one model that can be physically demonstrated and proven beyond the shadow of any doubt, which in fact the shadows were the original claim which assumed the Earth to be a sphere in order to prove the Earth as a sphere, if you can actually believe that, is instead truly a stationary world on a relatively flat plane which dwarfs and indeed sustains the heavenly bodies. Whether that's under an intangible expanse beset by an electromagnetic, quote, firmament, quite likely the provable electromagnetic spaciously confined domain, or maybe something remotely more corporeal, such as a physical dome that may have material properties, although evidence for the latter is extremely flimsy at best, if not lacking altogether. This other conceptual model derived from Truman showmanship in a dome-like structure derived by self-proclaimed gateway drug lords among pinhead kingdoms in the gaming world, riddled with unfounded rhetoric, gobbled up and regurgitated if that rings a bell, hearkening back to the fancy old globe with assumptions and filling in the blanks with imagination and conjecture touted as fact, plopping out hordes of mindless repeaters who will defend their beliefs thanks to repetition, repetition, repetition. artificially created by popular demand, view counts plus hordes of parroting subscribers to that fictitious idiom that inexplicably mirror concepts until proven otherwise. Ergo, the placebo effect on steroids. Nevertheless, we are certainly static. The sky above doesn't appear to be. Not the point here, however. The real point of recent findings and conclusions of a detailed, in-depth investigation solely performed by an evaluation engineer with a BS and MS degree in civil engineering from two top 10 accredited engineering programs at major universities, who has also specialized in litigation-based projects while working as an engineer slash consultant, as a lead fact-finding witness and project specialist that won many high-profile multi-million-dollar cases by using a simple strategy: apply the defendant's primary evidence to conversely perjure their own testimony. This smoking gun for all findings and conclusions was the pinnacle tactic used to reach a final verdict and award of judgment, all unanimously uncontested in the plaintiff's favor. Furthermore, the person conducting this study worked for over 13 years directly under the principal structural engineer and team leader who ultimately steered and ultimately misled the first on site investigation after the collapse of the Twin Towers on September 11th, as well as the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995, amongst other historic events requiring opinions from so called experts, whose credibility this writer began to scrutinize after the whole pancake theory, etc. Any respect that might have supported my opinions of certain highly esteemed members of the architects and engineers community involved with official investigations has evaporated. It's important to impress that while this work association could be considered somewhat negative due to outrageous findings and conclusions of those who authored the infamous pancake theory, if personal credibility was to be factored into the equation. But using this case as an example where opinion and credibility are something that separate truth from theory, truth is the authority based only on facts, not authority neglecting or failing to use all the available facts just to sell the truth or a narrative under the guise of implausible rhetoric, rather than deriving quantitative truth by numerical fact. One additional point to the argument that suggests credibility should be factored into this study, which it clearly isn't: all data used is available and can be reviewed online anytime by anyone interested in substantiating the same claims, regardless of educational background or professional work experience. Although beneficial for developing the overall methodology used for the study's outline, by no means were advanced level mathematics or engineering solutions used to derive the results discovered, nor were they a significant factor in developing the final conclusions. Most graphical depictions demonstrate the lacking feasibility, not just the math. Yet, in the case of the globe Earth's testimonial lies and general hypocrisy, the ones where only highly regarded, recognized, and prominent figureheads in astronomical sciences with a long-winded alphabetical supplement of credentials and certifications following their name like a whimsical paper trail to make their cocky point under duress, while their names in the industry alone speak for any alleged credibility, the stuff imaginably required to substantiate any scientific and technical know-how considered necessary to support the globe as we know it. Only those with major false pretense need apply. Nevertheless, the study's aftermath is even more incriminating against the authoritarian promoting broad speculation and globe Earth rhetoric. Again, the lone concept that's based entirely on unproven scientific assumption and CGI imagery, where presupposition replaces experiment and the fanciful imaginations of theoretical genius produce brilliant theorem which are undeniably contradictions of reality, pitiful and offensive to anyone skeptically analyzing reality. Their only defensive tactic is to mock and ridicule. Their offensive tactic is to create false arguments for the truth and then, destroy those false straw man arguments. Heliocentrism also contradicts every perceptible fact to any truly objective, unbiased eyewitness testimony, which in its entirety is unbelievably disproportionate to every piece of observational detail and fact known to mankind. I beg anyone who believes they live stuck to the side of a spinning sphere to prove this otherwise, or stop perpetuating the madness by regurgitating the totally debunked, thoroughly disproven lies. If it looks like a flat Earth, has the properties of a flat Earth, and appears to be nothing else but flat and stationary, then it's not a spinning globe. The epicenter of this lie befalls on NASA and the likes, the ancient minds of ancient history, prior to the knowledge of things like electromagnetism or even manned flight. But obviously, it takes a flat Earth quack to wake some people up with resounding claims. Reiterating the novel and revolutionary conclusion, the only application of solar lunar data expressly provided publicly by NASA and NASA supported websites, among reference internet sites providing ecliptic data for all solar and lunar eclipses, is only applicable on a flat Earth model. Period. End of story. Hypothetically, the dramatic ending for the globe theory is the ultimate act of God, where misleading characters act like experts, playing out their role as some articulate genius, but in fact land in the bucket labeled ignoramus, overstating their artificial intelligence, repeating such drivel like nobody else's business but their own selfish image to promote. Conversely, in its totality, the comprehensive analysis used to define and support the aforementioned findings and conclusions, again, was no extraordinary feat, but an extremely straightforward exercise in geometric simplicity, which only utilizes the theoretical configurations developed historically for NASA's database on their own government-sponsored websites, like timeanddate.com and eclipse.gsfc.nasa.gov. Again, that's eclipse.g as in gamma, s as in Sam, f as in foxtrot, c as in charlie.nasa.gov. To repeat, NASA perjured globe evidence all by themselves. In this case, NASA did not contradict the flat Earth model, but proved it, over and over, consistently and constantly. Equally so, this conclusion wasn't derived by some independent opinion based on skewed conjecture contrived for the benefit of obtaining favorable judgment by popular demand, nor was it subjectively analyzed in order for results to parallel biased viewpoints or parrot the silent minority who rely on others for their opinion. Suffice to say, at this point, NASA has shot itself in defeat of its own purpose, with its own smoking gun evidence being used to kill the globe theory to boot. Irony is delicious, best served warm on a table that is flat and stationary. This evidence is purely fact-based, but not as obvious to the average person, or even seasoned experts apparently, unless some details are closely reviewed objectively. NASA has profiles for every solar and lunar eclipse on record. In their entirety alone, solar eclipses are schematically represented to show the impossible configuration of the Moon and Earth's positioning, with the totality signature of the Moon's shadow shown passing across the Earth's surface, highlighted in a manner that's impossible to recreate on a globe model. This is especially true when sun-moon positioning data for the same solar eclipse is observed and juxtaposed from different locations along the same approximate meridian line. A form of triangulation should point to one sun approximately 90 to 95 million miles away and one moon approximately 240,000 plus or minus miles away, but absolutely never do because they point away from each other and not towards two separate spheres in a celestial alignment. Um, just to give a quick understanding of what the celestial alignment should be, is you have the Earth going around the Sun on what is known as the ecliptic or the solar plane, and although the Earth is tilted at a 23.4 degree angle from the vertical, 66.6 degrees from the horizontal, the Earth does indeed go around this solar plane or ecliptic. So does the moon, essentially. However, the moon strays plus or minus 2.5 degrees from the ecliptic, so it's, a 5-degree range. But essentially, the moon is on that same ecliptic as the Earth. So that's what we mean by celestial alignment. Now, the same concept holds true for lunar eclipses where a full moon is diametrically opposed to the sun on a flat Earth model, but erratically located in implausible alignments on any spherical representation of the Earth's shadow. This is the infamous umbra effect being altered on the moon's surface. This is where NASA only casts shadows of doubt on the conceptual alignment. It totally obliterates the standard schematic's viability, which was apparently created by some shady characters, pun intended. Furthermore, on a globe model, the points of convergence with the sun and moon in alignment can never intersect. By this, for the four cities with historic sun-moon data spreading from the southern tip of South America to the northern portion of Canada were used to include one at the equatorial line to represent an intermediate position between extreme reference points, and a supplementary location used as confirmation for the other reference points as shown here. In order to demonstrate the impartiality of eclipse data used for this investigation, all total solar eclipses, to include both annular and hybrid type events, were used between 1980 and events projected by the year 2020, and the same yearly span for lunar eclipses, although partial and prenumeral eclipses were excluded due to any inaccuracies that could be speculated if used to support final results. A total of 70 events, that's 70 events, 26 lunar and 44 solar, were studied and evaluated. In every instance, the results were not only a 100% confirmation of a flat Earth model, as conclusive as that finding was, they categorically proved the mathematical impossibility of any data being possibly applied to a globe Earth model in their totality. The latter declarative statement is best demonstrated by using the old school, pun intended, globe model terminology, and at this point reference is only made in that capacity using worldly definitions in terms of hemispheres and regions above and below the equator, with reference made to the conventionally accepted north and south poles located at the so-called top and bottom of the globe model. As shown by these eclipses with signature profiles exclusively across the polar regions, it is not possible to apply sun-moon positioning data to a sphere during these events, as the earthly portion depicted in shadow cannot be the result of a solar source point angled orthogonally or 90 degrees from the sunlit direction. The same conceptual findings hold true to ecliptical profiles spanning from relatively far above to well below the equator, as shown in these NASA figures. Again, this isn't just one or two isolated instances, but something identified with 100% consistency across the board application for every eclipse after closely researching just those four locations, which rest upon essentially the same meridian line. Imaginably, the same exact principle could apply to any triangulation of points for any eclipse event from locations along some other meridian line. In short, using the conventionally accepted, assumed theoretical representation for solar eclipses used in today's classrooms from kindergarten through 12 to the collegiate level by all kindergartners through PhD candidates worldwide, as well as those employed by businesses strictly using the predicate of this astronomical absurdity as their primary vocational tool, plus all media historically covering eclipses under the same precept. Lines of convergence for a solar eclipse alone, where the sun-moon-earth alignment during a new moon are mathematically impossible, on a globe model with the sun 93 million miles away, being transited at exactly the right point at exactly the right time by a moon 240,000 miles away, and yet solar and lunar eclipses are equally as likely over a 100-year period. Case closed, final verdict, Your Honor, on record, for the record, forever and evermore, period, end of story. To repeat this, although not any less doubtful but imaginably more complex to fully perceive, is the lunar eclipse, where the Earth's umbra is cast during a full moon. This is equally impossible due to the fictitious alignment and geographical implausibility of that depiction. And call it like it is, NASA has finally been caught off guard, red tape handed, and should be charged with drunken deriving, as nothing so incredibly dubious and unwittingly stupid as the conventional model involving the spinning sphere Earth has ever been proven true, nor have any of the fundamental tenets of the model, including but not limited to curvature, axial rotation, orbital velocities, solar velocities, galactic velocities, gravity, space-time, Big Bang, etc. All of that is just simply theory and assumption, see? That cult-like religious foundation is nothing more than a delirium a la delirium encapsulated and entrapped under a baseless firmament of confirmed lies. And $5,000 says so now, with about 5,000 more reasons why 1,000 colleges and universities nationwide have been issued a challenge to disprove the flat earth reality or defend the heliocentric hypothesis since early February using NASA Eclipse data, and not one science department has accepted the challenge or even responded to the open invite for debate, although reasons for this avoidance were fairly anticipated during its inception. Some may have heard the $5,000 NASA Eclipse Challenge mentioned on some chat programs and some radio shows to date, but now, after each physics and astronomy department and college president at respective academic institutions nationwide have been given formal notice of this challenge in multiple letters sent via United States Postal Service under separate cover, along with a CD of the investigation and supporting documentation included therein, all used to reference those same findings and conclusions. In other words, technically, no science department in America can conceivably argue ignorance of the current flat earth movement and the community of truth-oriented, fact-finding missionaries willing to aggressively challenge those being caught, wittingly protecting the World Wide Web of lies, which is really more like getting entrapped by their own www matrix world of physically impossible spherical spinning earth, and one that's shamelessly promoted by every teaching establishment and kept under submission by institutional propaganda in MK Ultra spectacular fashion, literally. But for now and for hereafter, the good news isn't no news any longer, but what really is newsworthy is the exponential increase and momentous acclaim of reality TV that's actually getting produced by real YouTube videos, by realistic enterprises feeding the masses with good stuff for everyone to actively start supporting. Plus, approximately 850 nationwide TV news departments from coast to coast, including Alaska and Hawaii, have now been equally provided adequate background info and data related to the NASA challenge, and that it's been submitted uniformly at the collegiate level more like a dare than a carnival game. By this, the possibility of a winner to the challenge is mathematically impossible, where all along the proverbial flat earth antagonist using mathematics as their fundamental tool and argumentative talking point against a plain earth model has done absolutely nothing but perjure themselves, regardless of the shade, color, or hue of the rhetoric. Will the colorful talking heads, the blind, mindless proponents for the scientific and mathematical modeling of Earth ignore 100% NASA solar lunar data, which irrefutably supports a flat Earth model, not a globe? That's the only possible tactic to remain a glober. Bury your head in the sand and ignore the data. I should remind you that this tactic, while amusing and ironic, is indeed the opposite of science and mathematics. Plugging your ears and closing your eyes, singing la 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 la, is not debate, nor is it science. Indeed, ignorance is the only possible avenue Globers have to retain their self proclaimed intellect and prestige. It's sort of hard to call one intelligent and prestigious with their rear end sticking up in the air and their head upside down in a cosmos of grains of sand. Billions and billions of grains of sand, and yes, Carl Sagan counted. At this point, anybody and everyone who wants to actively participate in a universal grassroots effort to spread truth to every corner of the world we all live on, all 33 corners, pun intended. Your involvement can be as simple as copying and pasting questions about the NASA challenge in the comment section of practically every collegiate and university physics astronomy department website and inquire why no one has taken advantage of the $5,000 offer, if indeed math proves a globe and is supposed to be extremely easy to prove using basic mathematical equations. Just ask Jeff C. or something colors, I think it's Pink's rhetoric, Red's rhetoric, Red's rhetoric. If you can stomach them throwing up their hands and uttering their gut instincts, that always seems to go completely awry. And by the way, until Red's rhetoric eats his socks, he has no credibility as far as I'm concerned. So, and you know what I'm talking about, Red. Anyway, bottom line is this world, the affirmation and confirmation of the study used as foundation for the challenge was one small step for a mind to consider, but can be one giant leap for all humankind to accept once truth gets universally applied to every person who has eyes that see and ears to hear the word. Earth was most definitely created by some supernatural force, uniquely and emphatically formed by an enigmatic sovereign, unprecedented by any advanced civilization, or produced by Hollywood elite for a military grade propaganda. The globe Earth theory generates false scarcity while strangling the people into perpetual debt slavery worldwide using fiat currency plus a cachet of hyperboles and exceedingly deceptive budgets, funding a long planned, expertly steered, nefarious global agenda, no thanks to the likes of Neil deGrasse, for the ultimate purpose of separating us spiritually from our Creator, mocking and heckling we who speak the obvious, simple truth, which is backed by the plain facts and data. Indeed, this globe Earth lie appears more and more to be an integral part of the grandiose deception, a strong delusion that has fooled the entire world and even the very elect, for a time at least. Hashtag Tyson's a flat earth chicken is not meaning to leave a foul mouthed perception of reality in your mouth, but call it like it is. People like Tyson fight dirty, using ad hominem sound bites as opposed to sound logic to prove their point that purely contradict the unsolicited, well founded dissemination of scientific fact and insult everyone in earshot away from reality. Total bollocks, as they say in some UK Ultra arenas, total bullshit in the land of MK Ultra USA. Flattery got him everywhere, including fame, but the flat truth will bring intellectually celibate entities like Tyson or Krauss back down to earth. Everybody, please join us in this international campaign of extraordinary proportions. Post your comments on the Facebook page, $5,000 NASA Eclipse Challenge, and get involved in any way possible from spreading the word to make your own YouTube video, mirror this one, record dialogue with those defending the globe Earth model, such as a science department personnel or staff at local observatories who have their entire profession based on that man-made duplicity and mathematical absurdity and impossibility. Send inquiries related to the challenge to jock.clunet at AOL.com. That's JACQUES dot KLU. N is in Nathan, E is in Echo, T is in Tom at AOL.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, be sure and spread the word, spread the world, and peace out.